One is talking about Janae and Kenny's breakup, specifically the fact that Kenny has been a secret racist who has been using Janae for clout, essentially gaslit her into a relationship since their time on Love Island for over a year, and secretly has been in the group chat with his buddies saying all kinds of racist things, calling her slurs, saying he doesn't even like black girls. And in light of all that's happening right now with Shelly and Alandria and their season of Love Island, the upcoming reunion, and just how black women are being perceived, not just in this moment, but just overall in society, it is incumbent to talk about these topics. I'm going to jump straight in, but first hit the follow button. Please hit the subscribe button. I know you didn't do it. Go ahead and do it now. This message in this moment is so key for you to have, and as many of you as possible need to have it. So first, I want to talk about how this narrative is being framed. These are the mainstream headlines that pop up when you put in Janae and Kenny breakup. The Love Island drama, allegations, and when a friend group implodes. Note this. This is USA Today. L. Why Love Island couple Janae Craig and Kenny Rodriguez broke up. Untangling Janae Craig and Kenny Rodriguez's breakup drama with Love Island USA co-stars. This is from E! Now, these are all within a day or less than a day. In other words, after she's already shown all of the receipts, after she's already talked about everything that she found, why do all of these headlines allude to drama? Here's one from BuzzFeed, and you already know they're racist. Here's everything that's gone down amid Love Island stars Janae and Kenny's extremely messy breakup. All these allusions to messy, drama, infighting, it's to downplay the situation. Black women never get to be the victims even when you're being victimized. By framing it this way, by not leading with what actually happened, people who never click on the article are going to think, oh, there's another black woman involved in drama. And to say drama, to say mess, it implies that there's equal fault on both sides. She didn't do anything. Even a headline like this that looks innocuous, like L's, oh, why they broke up. Why don't you lead with it? You know, most headlines are to draw you into the article, but these are either trying to shift blame or give you as little information as possible because they don't want to be honest about what you're going through. Your pain is never valid. The only outlets that are covering it properly would be black ones. The Griot, Love Island star Kenny Rodriguez is accused of being racist and a manipulative liar. That's very clearly what happened. So it's also 19 hours ago. So within a day, they've had the same amount of opportunity as all the other headlines I showed to put out this narrative. It's not like, oh, they had more new information. No, these are all from the same time period. But while this is certainly a much more accurate representation of what actually happened, this does not necessarily have better intentions than all the mainstream news outlets like E! And CNN and whatnot, and what they said to try to downplay the situation. They're amping it here in the Griot headline, but it's not necessarily for your benefit as a black woman. You know what they say in the news, if it bleeds, it leads. So they will give you the more inflammatory details and whatnot right up front in the black news publications, in my opinion, because they do want to scare you into your place. The narrative that is surrounding a lot of this whole situation is, oh my God, and that's why I don't date other men. That's why I stay in my lane. That's why I do this and that's why I do that. What Janae has been through is horrific. It is terrible. It is monstrous. And I'm so, so sorry she is going through this experience. But it is completely disingenuous to say she's having it because she is dating out. Black men say and do the same exact thing all the time, only they're typically sitting next to their victims when they do it. They're not sneaking around and hiding it. It's socially acceptable for them to say how much they hate you and aren't attracted to you right to your face, and you call it black love. Remember these?
Ask you a question. Are you in love with your wife? No, me either. What? I don't believe in that shit anyway. Dog, it's okay. It's overrated. No.
Bro, I've been sitting in this car for about 2 hours now because I refuse to go inside and be with my wife. Like, I hate her that much. The only reason why I'm with her is because I'm broke and I don't have nowhere else to go.
I wasn't attracted to the face.
But I met her, she was 175.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm used to 125 too.
Yeah.
She 5'6", 175. And she was the wrong color.
Right.
And I was used to,
That part.
So what made you keep coming back to her? She's not your preference.
she lived down the street.
It's inconvenience.
Very much. 'Cause
listen.
I lived 30. All my other girlfriends lived 30 minutes away. She lived about 3 minutes away.
Regis sounds terrible. Regis is getting worse and worse
But
and worse and worse.
But I would always feed you.
She would feed me.
He always had a meal ready.
And she would give me money.
So that was just a random sampling of clips a lot of people are familiar with, have seen over the course of the last year. Black men with black women talking about how unattracted they are to their wives, how they're only with them from some kind of advantage, and so they can treat them badly and extract benefits from the relationship. And there are a million more like this video I didn't have time to stitch, but Black men have made a career of going online on some kind of platform telling the earth how much they hate Black women who look Black and how much they didn't want that for a partner, but because of finances, because of labor, because of some kind of advantage, they're willing to settle for you. What is the difference between those men and Kenny? Oh, they're doing it publicly while he did it privately. And I want to reiterate, we hate him. He's a monster. What he did is horrific. But why are Black women trying to get brand new and come on God's internet talking about some? And that's why I don't date out, because I'm so afraid of being humiliated. That can't be true when Black women sign up to sit next to their partner while he announces to the world how much he hates them, how much he finds you unattractive, how much he is repulsed by you, how he has cheated on you. That cannot be the reason. And I'm not saying you have to date out, because all ex-wives are trash. I say this to you every day. All ex-wives are trash. They all need to be vetted. But you cannot convince me you're so afraid of interracial dating when this is what you're accepting in everyday life. This woman has had her husband's baby. She is sitting here begging for a compliment, and he's telling the world how much she was just not his type, how she couldn't sing the first time he saw her. She was performing in the little, church choir, and she couldn't sing. She still can't sing. He's telling the world how much he can't stand you. He's repulsed by you, but you're so happy you got a baby and a ring. You're sitting here in agreement, touching and agreeing with your own humiliation. Stop it. And I saved the Kelly Steele stitch from the Dear Future Wifey podcast for last, because this is something everybody saw. It was making the rounds just a couple months ago. And what did she say? That's why you're still single. If you don't accept being not even second best, fifth best in a relationship, if you don't accept him cheating on you, because she said God gave her the grace to iron her husband's clothes so he can go meet up the side chick. If you don't give this man money so he can go cheat on you, if you don't allow yourself to be a complete doormat, you're going to be single. And the message is absolutely aimed at Black women. This is what the people are telling you from the pulpit, from Essence, which said you need to open up your options. Date an ex-con. Date a man who makes a lot less than you. Date a man who's 50 years your senior. This is what the Black-centered outlets are telling you, that there's nothing better out there and you better settle or you're going to be alone forever. How is that different from what Kenny said? First of all, in order to contextualize something, you need the full picture. A lot of Black women think this is an experience unique to them, that only they are being humiliated this way. But Black men have done it to others as well. Remember when Michael Ealy did that set of interviews talking about how his wife wasn't his type? He just went for like a practical option, but that's not the kind of woman he's really typically attracted to. Only a man who didn't respect you at all would ever publicly say such a thing, especially unprovoked, because the interview wasn't even about that. It happens across the board. Men will engage in these humiliation rituals, intraracial and interracial. But people emphasize one kind because they want to push one narrative. They're emphasizing the story of what just happened to Janae, but nobody talks about how Black men do the same thing to others. They will engage in what are basically PR relationships for clout while being with and preferring other women or other kinds of women. A great example is Tristan Thompson. He was with Khloe Kardashian for clout because he was always up under some other woman who looked nothing like her. He was accused of having an affair with Jordan Woods, which she denied, and I believe her. But I think the Kardashian clan only came at her with such vitriol because he was with a lot of women who didn't look like them. He was caught publicly cheating several times, and actually eventually had a baby by Miss Nichols here. But he's equal opportunity. He cheated with Black women and white women. Another example is Nick Young in Igloo, Australia. He was engaged to Igloo, and I will always call her that. And he went back to his actual preference, the mother of his children. But I want you to look at the framing by the media to tell you what to think. So first of all, Nick Young's baby mama, no name, doesn't feel guilty over affair. Why should she feel anything? As I understand it, they were still together when he started going with Igloo here anyway. But another important note, they have a picture of Igloo and Nick on the red carpet, and they got some, candid shot of this woman. She's much prettier than this. And they don't even have her whole face. It's cut off. She's in the corner because they're saying, you're nobody, you're not important. She's just a licentious baby mama. She hooked him with smecks. And the poor, innocent, blonde Iggy, she was hurt. That's the messaging of the media here. So they got engaged at Christmas time a while after that, and look at how much better this picture is. This one ran in People, but look at the narrative they're trying to spin. The line of the article says, Nick Young proposes to mother of his 3 children 3 years after you-know-who scandal. Why on earth are you bringing that up? It's been 3 years. It's to continue to paint Black women in a bad light. You're alluding to the idea, even at what's supposed to be a happy moment, her engagement, they're just licentious. She was in an affair. She's this, she's that. And if you're left to your own devices, you might put together the clues. He really wanted to be with Miss Green. He loved her. He said, you're the love of my life. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. It was a lovely proposal, but they covered it in all this drama to obscure the real picture, which is that he was with Igloo for clout. He did not want her and wasn't attracted to her. So they couldn't have you forming that opinion. Instead, they feed you the narrative. Igloo was hurt in all this. She's a victim. These 2 people harmed her. Wah, wah, wah. They literally says the engagement comes 3 years after his former fiance, rapper, that's rich, called it quits amid a cheating scandal involving Young and his off and on flame Green. Who would say that when you're talking about their engagement? This was completely inappropriate, but it's the narrative society wants to feed you. And it's not always black and white, no pun intended. I'm lying. It was an intentional pun. So look at what happened with Kola Booth, Kimora, Lee Simmons, and the whole Jaimin issue. So when Jaimin and Kimora broke up, it was partially, it was rumored because he and Kola Booth had an affair. Kola Booth was a professional model for years. There are much better pictures of her than this floating around. But the media exists to push narratives. They create a narrative and they hand it to you and you think you've come up with something. They have a picture of Jaimin on the red carpet. They have a picture of Kimora. Either it's studio imposed or it's on the red carpet. I can't tell. Why do they have this out of focus, snapshot from God knows where of Kola Booth? She's a public figure. They could have gotten a better picture because they want to push the idea, oh my God, I can't believe he left her for that. Like, oh, she's so undesirable. No, she's a beautiful woman. She's, Afrocentric in features. She's very lovely, but they don't want you thinking this unambiguous Black woman is as beautiful or more beautiful than the exotic Kimora. And they don't want you thinking, hey, this was for clout. This was for PR. Jaimin doesn't really like her. He likes women who might look more like himself. So they never give you all the clues to put together that Black men engage in PR relationships with other women as well while preferring something different. I've talked about this phenomenon for years, but I want to be clear. I don't think it's a flex. I do not think that Black men who will publicly criticize Black women, like Dave Chappelle, should be able to privately enjoy their company. He had an affair with Azalea Banks while being married to an Asian woman. I don't think Dave's wife is his preference. But he wants the clout. He wants the societal cachet of having an other on his arm while enjoying what he actually wants privately. But no, I don't think it's a boon for Black women. I don't think it's a feather in our cap. We should not be engaging with men who do not want to respect you publicly, who don't want to flaunt you, who don't want to appreciate you, and who make a living off denigrating you. So I am not in any way condoning this. I'm just making an observation. All men go for what they consider to be an easy lick, what's going to be the most profitable for them, both financially and in terms of extracting your labor while getting what they want behind the scenes. And back to Tristan Thompson, that's exactly what he's done. This article literally came out today. Khloe Kardashian is the caretaker for Tristan Thompson's brother, Amari, who LSG, which is a form of epilepsy. So he requires a full-time caretaker, and at least on paper, that is Chloe, a woman who he's not married to, a woman who he cheated on repeatedly, but he saw her and he saw an easy lick. He said, here's my chance to be around a family of billionaires. Here's my chance to get a lot of clout. Here's my chance to be with a woman with low self-esteem who's going to let me do whatever I want. I'm going to get a lot of brand deals. I'm going to get a lot of endorsements. I'm going to get a lot of exposure. And I'm going to get what I need for my own life. I can extract her labor. I can extract her resources. I'm going to be enriched, and I'm going to go get what I really want on the side, which is someone who doesn't look like her. But I feel like the world only wants you identifying the patterns when it's black women. I saw a lot of headlines like this. Janae Craig's split proves it's a pattern, and it's black women who pay the price. The article explores the idea that this is a pattern in reality TV, these men who don't like black women getting with them to chase clout. And it talks about a similar incident with Zeta Morrison and Timmy Pandolfi from season 4, who basically did the same thing. According to the article, Zeta recounted a conversation with Timmy's sister, and the sister said, I told Timmy to go for a dark-skinned girl. America loves that. While that is terrible and these instances are very real, it is incredibly disingenuous to point at two non-black men and say this is a pattern while ignoring all the black men that have done that across shows. Really comes to mind for me would be Chris and Paige from Married at First Sight and Clay and AD from Love is Blind. These men were with beautiful women that they couldn't stand because they looked black. And I said it, and I've been saying it all this time. Chris says when he met Paige's friends and they were asking, oh, what do you think of her? Oh, she's got the body of a goddess. Oh, her body's 10 out of 10. He couldn't say enough nice things about her body. But when it came to the face, what did he say? I'm not attracted to her facially. To her friends and family, oh, she's not a trophy. Oh, she's not my type. I go for the pretty girls. If you just said she's got the body of a goddess and she's toned and fit, body on 10, what does that say? You're saying her face is not pretty. Her face is gorgeous. You don't like that she is dark, that she has Afrocentric features, that she looks black. And it was the same thing on Love is Blind with Clay and AD. I talked about this ad nauseum back when it happened. You can go back on TikTok and find my Love is Blind playlist and see. But so many people hesitated to call Clay out because he wasn't the typical man. He wasn't like Chris. He didn't say, oh, I like everything but her face. She's not my usual type. But it was in his actions. It was in his behaviors and some of his mannerisms. It clearly indicated he did not like her. And all his behavior since then has definitely proven the point. Who he has gone for since exiting the show, the manner in which he left her at the altar, the way that he only wanted physical things out of her, it indicated his true preference is for someone who's got her body, but who doesn't look black. Let's call a spade a spade. Because he literally said, and I cover all this in the Clay as a Colorist video, oh my God, I didn't know you were so dark. When she came out, when they met for the first time, oh, I didn't know you were going to be chocolate. Oh, I wasn't expecting. Because of her voice, because of her mannerisms, because of her former occupation as an NFL cheerleader for the Patriots. He called her AD, but her name is Amber Desiree. And many other small things, it became clear he thought she was going to be on the more ambiguous side of the scale. He may or may not have known she was black, but he definitely did not expect her to be darker. And he was asking, in complete violation of the spirit of Love is Blind, what do you look like on the other side of the wall? And she refused to answer. Because first of all, you're not supposed to be there for that. But he was particularly insistent as to knowing things about her physical attributes. And she was like, no, I'm not telling you that. But Chris stayed with Paige and Clay stayed with AD until the last possible minute to extract clout, to gain resources, to gain access, not just to not look like the bad guy, but to try and launch social media careers. And then when they got called out for their obvious lying and hypocrisy, they tried to blame everyone but themselves. And lest people say I was lying on Chris later, let's recall what he said about Paige.
Give me something about her that really you just did not like.
It was a physicality.
It was just a physical.
Yeah, I wasn't attracted to the face. And I'm not being disrespectful here. but there's so many beautiful, you know what I'm saying, black queens, white queens, Hispanic queens here in the city of Atlanta, and I just feel like it shouldn't be hard to find somebody that's, because I'm not that picky, but no, I dress. But you're not that picky. Y'all, out of all the millions of women here, y'all picked the one that was just like.
So behind her back, he made a vomiting noise, while in front of her face, he continued to suck up all of her energy, sleep with her multiple times, tell her all about how her body was banging. Very much Clay energy, and behind her back, he was slagging her off to anybody who would listen about how she wasn't attractive enough, and then he cheated on her. So what do you call this besides clout chasing? So black men do it to black women on reality TV shows all the time. So for Refinery 29 to have that conversation without including black men is so disingenuous. And they do it online, offline, all around the world for clout and for free. Like, it's considered normal. Like all the clips I showed you in the beginning. The men who cheat repeatedly, the men who are abusive, the, Cosbys, the Diddys, the R. Kellys, the Chris Browns of the world have been so normalized by the black community. And if you say, I'm thinking about going elsewhere because there might be better treatment, they act like you're insane. And I think they take a lot of joy in these kinds of stories and narratives, and they push them on you like that's the only possible outcome. And they'll be quiet as a mouse on a Lauren and Cameron, or Keisha Sharp, Monica from Girlfriends, who's been married for decades to her white husband. They've adopted 2 fully black daughters, and she's gone on about her life. Quiet when it comes to Alfred Woodard, who's been married out for decades, probably nearly as long as my parents, and that man does everything for her. Quiet on the Tina Turners and whatnot of the world, like, again, not women of yesterday, like Eve, who married out, like, no offense to Eve, but I'm saying women who've been successfully and happily married for many, many decades duration. If that gets any positive attention, it's from black women. The black community as a whole, quiet as a mouse on it. But they will hold up every negative example to try to convince you if you go someplace else, you're going to get a negative outcome. I also think it's funny how many black people are like, oh, well, she should have known whatever was up because he was Dominican. I don't disagree. The premise is sound because a lot of Dominican people are very colorist and very anti-black. I said what I said. And I said it, be mad at Sammy Sosa, not at me, honey. Anyway, there is a well-deserved, known reputation for anti-blackness, anti-dark skin propaganda and whatnot coming from this segment. So a lot of black people are like, oh, well, she should have expected, she should have prepared for blah, blah, blah. And they think they're really spitting when they say that. But if you go by that logic, look at what's been in the news lately. Nobody has been proven to be more anti-dark skin than men who themselves are dark-skinned black men. Shannon Sharp has been in the news because he just settled the lawsuit with his accuser. And it all started because he likes to engage in race play. This man likes to pantomime. He gets off imitating the denigration, the trauma of our ancestors in a sexual context with a young white woman. And before having to pay her $23 million over this suit that he alleges that he harmed her and put his hands on her and other things I can't say here, he was voluntarily paying her $50,000 per encounter. This man has a white supremacist mindset. He didn't want to pay more than $30,000 for his daughter's wedding, but he has handed over his entire fortune, and before that was voluntarily giving hundreds of thousands to a young woman for each sexual encounter because she was not black. And so that he could pretend truly horrific, mentally sick things with her. That's anti-blackness, okay? Majors invoking Coretta Scott King to his white girlfriend to enable his abuse, anti-blackness. And now using and trading on Megan Good's name and fame to try and clear up his own, anti-blackness. And don't even get me started on Clay, because he crawled back out from underneath his rock in the past couple weeks with the wrapping of Love Island Season 7 to criticize and try to jump on the Alandria fame train by saying, oh, see, it's okay for black women to date up, but when a black man wants to, man, shut up. But all that energy, all the NFL players and NBA players who are in her DMs now, Alandria is a beautiful girl. She's absolutely stunning. But they want to use her for clout. They want to use her so they can appear to be not anti-black. Because if it was the aesthetic they're after, there are so many women in Hollywood who present that way. There are so many women who are famous and non-famous who have that same aesthetic who they could be dating if that was really what they were into. But they want her because she is famous. The whole world was talking about Love Island, and they want some celebrity by association, and they want her to help clean up their image. So overall, first of all men are users. All men are trying to use women for something, some kind of labor, resource, whatever. Even if it's just they genuinely want you on their arm because you're beautiful, your beauty is a resource. They don't want you there because the goodness of their heart. It's not about true love and together forever. It's about you have cachet. Your beauty has value in this world. Even if they just want to benefit from it physically, they want something from you. You have to think about what you're going to get out of the relationship and the situation. I hope with all these examples you've seen, black men are not offering you purer love and more disinterested love. They are just as interested in the ends as any other man, probably more so, honestly. And yes, be circumspect. Yes, use your context clues. But at the end of the day, you cannot spend every moment worrying about what could be his intentions. Because first of all, unless you're clairvoyant or you're going to hire a PI to stand guard 24/7, you're never going to know. And he can have the purest intentions in the world to start with. Men change every day. Men marry their childhood sweetheart who they love so good, and they are really genuinely, sincerely in love and having a happy family, and they leave her 20 years later because their intentions change. Some of these men online, women pass around their vows and, oh my God, those are the most beautiful things I ever heard, and he did this and he did that. All these big romantic gestures, and then later he kills her because his intentions changed. Make sure being with any man you choose is benefiting you in the present and in the future. The only measure of whether or not a relationship was good for you is if you were doing well during the relationship and if you're in a better place once it ends. The rest of that stuff is subjective. Did he love you and how you felt about him and how your emotions are? No one cares. Where were you during the relationship and where are you now that it's at a conclusion? If during the relationship you were being treated well and you got tangible things, tangible means measurable. You can write them down. You can see them on your bank balance. You can measure them. You can count them. So love and affection do not count. If you received a tangible advantage during the relationship and it raised you and lifted you, and after the relationship is over, you are either still benefiting or you're much better off than you would have been otherwise, life is going on. Now I'm talking about from the man. In Janae's case, the world may have raised her up to a position she hadn't attained before, but he had nothing to do with that. So it's giving net negative. It was definitely a loss on all cylinders being with him. But I talked about this back in my Sex and the City series. Charlotte won. You know, her first marriage with Trey didn't work out, but during her marriage with Trey, she got everything she wanted materially. You know, she didn't get that baby, but that's why she decided to leave him. And after she left him, she was in what? A better position. She got $1 million Park Avenue apartment, money to maintain it, and she met her second husband and her divorce lawyer, which if she hadn't been dealing with Dr. Trey McDougal, never would have happened. So she won. She got everything she needed. Look at that versus Miranda. By the world's measures, it would seem Miranda should have been doing better. Charlotte was divorced within a year. Miranda's marriage lasted probably 20-ish years. Miranda had a child. She had Brady. But Miranda, in the words of Jane Austen, gave all the honor and received none. Miranda bought the big, beautiful house in Brooklyn, and that house appreciated in value over the years. They say it's worth like $2 million. And she got none of that. For the last couple seasons of And Just Like That, she's been couch surfing. She got kicked out of her own house where only her name is on the mortgage by a broke bum bitch who couldn't afford it to start with. So she was miserable in the moment because she didn't want to move to Brooklyn. She had her own place in Manhattan. She was able to afford a multi-room apartment in Manhattan by herself. She had bought her apartment outright, and she had to take all that money and sink it into a house in Brooklyn she never wanted to start with. She lived a life that she really wasn't happy with. She was main breadwinner, and honestly, pretty much a solo parent. The only person she had to depend on was Magda, the nanny. RIP to her actress. She ended up being the caretaker for Steve's mom. She was doing everything all by herself. And Steve is living the life of Riley, soaking up the sun in a house he never could have afforded, playing the big man, destroying their joint child. And Miranda spent years unhappy in her career because you see now she's training for something new and different. And she was miserable in both of the Sex and the City movies at work. And then afterwards, she was not elevated, she was denigrated. Steve was up in her face, calling her out of her name, saying she didn't want her child, just being a real monster, after having the Whole Foods girl over for sex in the bed and the house she paid for, while acting like he couldn't afford to move someplace else. So now he's in that lovely house. And who is sitting pretty after their divorce? Steve. Because I think they've sold it now or whatever, but somehow through the divorce settlement, he's got a nice chunk of change, and he's opening up a second location of Scout over on Coney Island. And like I said, Miranda, until she just bought a place, was couch surfing for years. A grown woman with 3 degrees, running from pillar to post, trying to find some place to stay. And he has come up off of her hard work. Don't be a fool. Steve and Miranda had a much longer history. They had this, that, and the third going for them. But Charlotte, off of a marriage of a year, had a much better outcome. And that's how you measure success in a relationship. Longevity doesn't matter. Reproduction doesn't matter. Where were you when it started? Where were you when it ended? Specifically, did that person raise or lower you? Charlotte came up, Steve came up. Miranda was sunk. All women all over the world should have their options open, and they should be looking for the best situation for them, because not one XY means you any good. No man is walking the earth thinking, I am so disinterested, I only want to give. I'm looking for a woman to build up. I want to pour into her. I want to make all her dreams come true. I want to help her reach her full potential. I want to pray for her. None of them are thinking that. And honestly, since people wanted me to say something about the good genes controversy, I will say that there are a lot of men walking the earth looking for blonde-haired, blue-eyed women to prey on. That's what happened to Elon Musk's first wife. He used that woman as a reproduction factory and made her bear loads of blonde-haired, blue-eyed sons because that's what he wanted. And honestly, same thing with Jared Smith, but you ain't heard that from me. But I don't think the world would recognize it that way. They see it as, oh, these women are so desirable. They're so this, they're so that. And that's why the man wanted them. No man wants something purely out of love or even just desire. It's for advantage. And it's kind of rich that the world is trying to frighten black women right now by saying, oh, these men are trying to use you for clout or social acceptability or for money or for this or for that, when this country is founded on using black women's bodies, extracting our labor, forcing us to reproduce, using us for money literally by selling our flesh. And if you want the God's honest truth, some black men owned enslaved people. And I'm not talking about the ones that bought their wives and children out of slavery. I'm talking about owned enslaved people. And not in Africa either. There's nothing new under the sun. The question is how you're going to navigate this, because every time somebody is pushing a narrative on you, it's to produce a certain effect in you. What have black men been screaming from the mountaintops since the whole Nicolandria nation swept the country? Nicolandria fever is upon us all. They've been screaming, oh, well, maybe it happened for her, but it's not going to happen for you. These men really don't want you. They just want to use you for sex. Oh, you're not going to get your happily ever after. You're going to get hurt out there. Same thing's going to happen to you that happened to Sade Robinson and this one and that one. All they have are empty threats. Because if you leave, if you don't hang out waiting around for the Taylors of the world, they can't continue to exploit you without changing. If they are not the only game in town, they actually have to compete like men. And you know how they hate that? That was always their ace in the hole. Exploiting your fear that you weren't going to be loved, you weren't going to be cherished, that you were going to be fetishized on the outside, but it's already happening in here. My point here is nothing's going to happen to you out there that hasn't already happened to you in here. And that's not to discount the pain and whatnot of being harmed by another man. It all hurts. It's all painful. It's traumatic. We shouldn't have to go through any of this. But if your goal is to avoid pain, you don't do that by staying inside. It's the people with options that get to dictate how they're treated. When you have a bunch of job offers, you pit them against one another. You say, well, so-and-so's offering me this salary. This person's offering me a month of paid time off. This one's offering me benefits. What do you have? But if you only have one offer, you don't have a bargaining position. The world is trying to exploit your fears, and they're pushing their favorite narrative of all right now, that no matter how beautiful you are, you're actually undesirable, that no one actually wants you for you, and it's meant to scare you back into your place. Please do not drink that Kool-Aid. This guy is a jerk, and I mean, he's going to get all that he deserves because social media is raining hellfire on him right now. Good. He is going to be a pariah. But please don't let one narrative scare you into settling. Don't let one narrative make you believe in scarcity mentality, because that's all these men have. They have nothing to threaten you with otherwise. They realize you all have looked around, realize you love your life. If you get married, don't get married, you're happy, you're thriving in your relationships, you've got your friends, you've got your family, you've got your own money, everything is going well. All they have to play with are the same old emotional triggers. But if you're no longer triggered, they can throw spaghetti at the wall all day long. It's not going to matter. They're not going to have any emotional power over you anymore. So please get these things in order. Stop believing the hype and stop believing the narratives that are packaged to make you act a certain way. This insidious trope has been around for decades. I mean, since I would say a different world, since before that, honestly. I'll be talking about it later on my YouTube video, Your Relationship with the White Man Will Fail. It's a sarcastic title, of course, but it just shows you how rampant this idea is in media and how it's fed to Black girls from their earliest upbringing to keep them in their place. Don't fall for it. That's it, guys. Like and follow for more. If you didn't subscribe the first time I told you to do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Doctor's orders. And I will talk to you all later.